The United States deployed several thousand troops to bolster NATO forces in Eastern Europe as the leaders of France and Germany flagged trips to Moscow to address Western fears of an invasion of Ukraine. First, let's listen in.
1,000 service members from the U.S. Army's 2nd Cavalry Regiment, which is based in Germany, will reposition to Romania in the coming days. Second, we are moving 1,700 service members from Fort Bragg to Poland and approximately 300 service members from Fort Bragg to Germany. These forces are separate and in addition to the 8,500 personnel in the United States on heightened alert position posture that we announced last week.
With Russia refusing to pull back 100,000 troops poised on Ukraine's borders, 1,000 U.S. soldiers in Germany are being sent to Romania. Another 2,000 stationed in the U.S. are being flown to Germany and Poland. Now, in response, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko said the move would make it harder for a compromise between the two sides, calling the U.S. deployments destructive steps which increase military tension and reduce scope for political decision. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced he would soon travel to Moscow to discuss the crisis, while France's President Emmanuel Macron said a similar trip may be in the cards, depending on upcoming talks with other world leaders. In Washington, Pentagon spokesman John Kirby stressed that the U.S. troop movements were to demonstrate commitment to the NATO alliance and that no American soldiers would be sent to fight in Ukraine, which is not a NATO member.
These forces are not going to fight in Ukraine. They are going to ensure the robust defense of our NATO allies. All of these forces are separate and in addition to the 8,500 personnel in the United States on heightened alert posture that I announced last week. Those 8,500 are not currently being deployed, but remain ready to move if called for the NATO response force or as needed for other contingencies as directed by the Secretary or by President Biden. It's important that we send a strong signal to Mr. Putin and, frankly, to the world that NATO matters to the United States. It matters to our allies. And we have ironclad Article 5 commitments.
But that is unlikely to assuage President Putin, who has accused the U.S. and NATO of seeking to contain Russia by placing troops and strategic arms on its border. Again, let's listen in.
Самое главное, их задача – сдерживание развития России. Вот в чем дело. В этом смысле сама Украина – это просто инструмент достижения этой цели. Это можно сделать разными путями, втянув нас в какой-то вооруженный конфликт.
President Putin has demanded guarantees that Ukraine will not join NATO and has implicitly threatened the former Soviet state with a massive military buildup. Russia also wants NATO and the U.S. to forswear the deployment of missile systems near Russia's borders and to pull back NATO forces in Eastern Europe. Putin has left the door open to talk, saying he was studying Western proposals set out last month in response to Russia's demands, and that he hoped that in the end they will find a solution. Video footage released by Russian Defense Ministry showed tanks speeding across snowy fields in Belarus and combat helicopters flying overhead as units from both countries practiced ahead of the February 10 to 20 drills. NATO, meanwhile, welcomed the new U.S. troop deployment, with Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg saying the alliance will do whatever is necessary to protect and defend all allies.